Welcome to a surprise Thanksgiving episode of Big Boys. You know, with Thanksgiving right around the corner, we can't help but stop and take count of all that we're thankful for. We wondered if it was possible to become too thankful. So we decided to pay it forward by giving our listeners even more to be thankful for with a surprise episode of Big Boys.
Prepare to be mesmerized and or mortified.
Well, what's happening there?
Old Sorrel's here had him something now.
You son of a...
Yeah, clever. Kind of soft and only like in one ear.
If I had a nickel for every time I heard that.
Look at those boys, ain't they big?
Big Boys with Brian Hickey and John the Great. Welcome, everyone, to another beautiful, spectacular episode of the Big Boys podcast. I'm your host, Brian Hickey. With me, as always, is my co-host, my cohort in all things podcasting, Sir John the Great. John, how are you doing?
Brian?
How's your junk?
Oh, you know, it's still attached. That's always a step in the right direction.
That's something to be thankful for.
It is.
As we are very thankful for this very special Thanksgiving bonus episode that you're receiving,
Surprise!
dear listener. Oops, pal, surprise. It's bonus for your eyes and ears. Yeah, so this one was a little unexpected. I was thinking about it myself, but I was also kind of thinking like, man, Brian, you got a whole bunch of other stuff to do. Maybe you shouldn't tack on an extra bony. But then old John boy here was like, hey, why don't we do a Thanksgiving one? And I was like, you son of a bitch.
Well, you know, holidays are always a very special time of year, so it just didn't feel right, you know. I've always been a believer of that too, and like, let's have Thanksgiving before we have Christmas. So
Right, you don't ever want
right not have a Thanksgiving episode.
You don't ever want to skip over the holiday that reminds you, like, oh fuck, it's almost Christmas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel
the
like
other
that's what
option's
Thanksgiving
jump
is for
straight
me
to
every
Christmas.
time. It's like, especially when it's over, it's like, oh, like, it's, you know, 'tis the season for I can't afford to buy anybody gifts again. It's
Yeah.
that time of year. So yeah,
Yeah,
we
it's only like a
definitely
month away.
couldn't pass over this opportunity to bring you a very thankful episode. All sarcasm aside, we're very thankful to be doing this podcast and to have you listening with us. And I couldn't think of a better way than to be more thankful than to be furious and ferociously fast about it. So we got too fast. And you guessed it. We got too furious.
Exceedingly fast and exceedingly furious. Yes, it's all about that play on words.
It certainly is. Oh man, old John Singleton. He brought some kookiness to the Fast and Furious franchise. It was much needed.
You know, in some ways, it was better than I remembered.
Same here, man. Same here.
Yeah, like it's enjoyable. Actually, I think the first half is better. Like, I kind of liked the way it was going, and then it definitely started going off the rails, which I guess it's, you know, that's the type of movie it is. So I mean,
it full Johnny boy. It full blown started right off the rails from the get go. It was never on the rails. The only rails it was on was the ones on Amir. You know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't say it started off the rails. They were street racers. They were street racing. It wasn't too crazy.
I mean, this one still abided by the laws of physics, or at least attempted to, right?
It didn't really exaggerate much more than like just average movie exaggeration, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. I wouldn't say until like The Rock came in the picture, then they were like, you know what? Hey, physics? Fuck all that.
Well, that's when they abandoned street racing altogether and they just became vaguely car-themed action movies.
Indeed. All right, well, before we get to just breaking down too fast, too furiously, too reviewy of this film, we have ourselves some new, you know what, John, I don't even want to say ChatGPT sketches anymore, because I went and I got a AI app from my phone that I'm paying a yearly subscription for now, which ironically it is powered by ChatGPT. However, I have noticed that I don't know, maybe it's like a third party thing, so they're not as bogged down by some of the same restrictions. And it's like, oh well, you're paying for it, the premium service. So it's like basically I get to use swear words,
Okay.
And this
I
is
didn't know
actually very
ChatGPT
much.
wouldn't use any.
No, I definitely wouldn't. And so much on this one that like this is very much a toned down version of one of the first versions of this sketch, where it was just like, make it R-rated, and then it was like the character that you'll be reading was like every other thing you said was goddamn. It's like, all right, let's tone it down there. It's like, let's not make a spoof out of swearing in general. Let's keep it somewhat story related. But anyways, that was a bit of a nice surprise. So and thinking of the Fast and Furious universe, and the interesting casting choices that they built this franchise off the backs of Vin Diesel and Paul Walker, two very stoic men who are like, they're that's what I enjoyed so much about this one, is that Tyrese brought so much more charisma to the franchise, and had so much more versatility as a character in the film, rather than what works for the Fast and the Furious. I feel with two kind of stoic leading men going head to head, and is what essentially the Fast and the Furious was it was Point Break but with cars.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like that works. Even to go into Point Break, that works with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze, who are like, that's kind of their leading man action guys, where it's not like they don't really show weakness. They don't really show, a silly side to them. For the most part, at least
they're
Keanu Reeves in that time. Exactly. Yeah. So like there wasn't too much like that. Only kind of works when they're going against each other, right? Like where it's kind of a versus thing. Yeah. But when it's like they're team up and there's no hostility, or like there's no underlying hostility or what have you between them, it's kind of like, okay, well, this is just a weird thing to witness, where it's like there's no one jumping in to, to add drama to the meat of the film. So I was thinking, like, what if Fast and Furious was built on the backs of more well-known character actors, like say like Dom Toretto was played by someone like Paul Giamatti around the time that he got cast in Sideways, or you got maybe Ed O'Neill from Married with Children.
That would be interesting.
Played Brian O'Connor. And so what me and my new AI app came up together, which I'd say it's about half and half. Like it wrote obviously the first draft of the script with a lot of my notes, and then I kind of, before I sent it off to you, I did a little bit of doctoring. But what we have here, John, is F11, Married Sideways with Children. And I think I want to play the character of Dom, who is basically Paul Giamatti in Sideways. John, have you seen Sideways?
I have not.
It's a fun film. It's obviously the movie that made Paul Giamatti's career. I mean, he was in a lot of things before that, but that was like, that brought him leading man status. And then obviously Ed O'Neill from Married with Children.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, you're basically going to be playing Brian, but in an Ed O'Neill way. And then I guess I'll be playing our nemesis here, Speedy Steve, who I need to reiterate here, or rather iterate for the first time. The AI came up with the name Speedy Steve. I realize that the history of the two of us, we have a lifelong history of, ripping on our old buddy that we grew up with named Steven. I need to make that very clear to Sir Stephen. That's not what this was. The AI came up with the name, guy. We're not making fun of you. I promise. Hand to God. Hand to whatever God you want me to put it to.
Now, and
Swear
I'm
to
saying
God.
this having not read it yet. This was an AI generated script. I'm just
Yeah.
going to say, but if the shoe fits, we'll see.
Yeah. It's possibly a snug fit. It's possibly a snug fit.
I haven't read it yet.
I'll have you be the determining factor because I feel like it's too close to home for me. They didn't even click in my brain until I was doing the doctoring, getting ready to send it off to you. I was like, oh, this could definitely be interpreted as us just ripping on Steven again, which was not the intention, but it's just, I guess, a happy accident. Listeners, viewers, go and check out mine and John's failed pilot, Unadulterated. You can find it on YouTube and all sorts of other platforms. Okay. With that said, let's get down to brass tacks here.
I don't know if I'd say it was failed.
Well,
Just
did
wasn't
not
as
successfully
successful as-
successfully create revenue for us, and we are still working full-time jobs and doing this. But no, I don't think it's as a failure. I mean, we sold the Facebook page for $500.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. I guess I'll read the stage directions. All right, so here we go. F11, married sideways with children. Interior, Toretto's garage, day. Dom and Brian are working on a car in the garage. Dom is sipping on wine while Brian is lounging on a couch, flipping through a car magazine. This 02 Ford needs to breathe. It's like a living, breathing thing. Just like the Merlot, you gotta let it open up.
Yeah, just like my couch after a long day at the shoe store.
The sound of an engine revving outside catches their attention. What is that obnoxious noise? It's running the tannins of my glass. It's ruining the tannins of my glass. Brian gets up and peeks out the garage door.
Some guy in a souped-up Civic. Looks like he wants to race.
Of course. They always come flocking like pigeons to breadcrumbs. Toretto, and this is me as Speedy Steve. Toretto, O'Connor, you two think you're the kings of the streets, but Speedy Steve is the one to beat. I challenge you two has-beens to a race. Well, look who's here. Seedy Peeve, the man who thinks he can make a car faster by adding flames to the side.
Hey there, Peed Skeeves. Do you actually believe those spoilers add downforce?
I know you know that's not my name. I pronounced it prominently when I hopped out of my Civic. Speedy Steve is in the house.
This is a garage, you wet fart.
Nonetheless, Speedy Stevie, it is. Your only car? If only your car had half the speed of your insistence.
Don't worry, Speedy Stevie. We'll make sure to tell everyone about your vroom vroom Civic.
It's Speedy Steve. I know you know it's Steve. I'm a grown man with a grown man nickname. Stop trying to get in my head. Let's do this. Put your titles where your mouths are, fools.
Oh, we've got the serious one now. Sorry, Speedy Stevie. We don't race for pink slips anymore. We're adults now.
You see, friend, we have something you don't understand. It's called family. It's thicker than oil and stronger than any chassis. You just can't buy that at a performance shop. You guys are a couple washed up losers. I don't need this. I'm too fast for you and your family. Fuck, I'm furious. Speedy Steve storms out of the garage, kicking over a toolbox on his way out.
Looks like someone needs to clean out the carburetor.
Dom and Brian share a hearty laugh. It seems as if the wine has aged better than our dear Steven Speeds here.
Yeah. What an accelerated asshole.
They clink their glasses as Dom nods in agreement, giving a satisfied grin. Family, Brian. No one messes with our family.
Yeah, that's right, Dom. Our family sticks together tighter. Our family sticks together tighter than Steve Speed's love nuts.
End of scene.
Wow.
And now we also have ourselves another AI written sketch here that is more in the theme of Thanksgiving, which I didn't do a proofread on, so I have no idea really what's going on with this. But
We got multiple.
I figured
characters.
I'd let you be playing the character of Dom Toretto.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. I can play Dom.
and I guess I'll be Brian on this one. You want to be Letty or do you want to be Mia?
Ooh. I'm gonna be Letty. Let's go for that.
Okay. I guess
Yeah.
I'll be Mia. And you know what? I'm gonna let you be Uncle Gobble.
All right.
Okay. And I guess I'll read the actions here again. Curtain opens to Dom Toretto and Brian O'Connor trying to stuff an oversized turkey.
You know, Brian, stuffing a turkey isn't much different than tuning a car engine.
You only could compare making Thanksgiving. Only you could compare making Thanksgiving dinner to street racing, Dom. A loud noise is heard outside. They rush to the window.
Sorry, I'm late. Traffic was a real bitch.
Mia comes in, holding cranberry sauce in a NOS container. Who's up for some nitro cranberry sauce?
That's my sister.
They hear a loud gobble. Uncle Gobble walks in. He's a man in a ridiculously turkey suit.
Family. It's not just about having the same bloodline. It's also about eating together.
Everyone rolls eyes. We get it, Uncle Gobble. They all sit down at the table.
Here's the family. Fast cars.
And furious appetites. Everyone laughs, cheers, then starts passing food around the table like they're exchanging batons in a relay race. But everything is done in extreme slow motion with intense music playing. Uncle Gobble starts choking on a piece of cornbread.
I'm
Real method, John. Real method.
the reverse gear of first aid.
Dom Toretto performs the Heimlich successfully, and Uncle Gobble coughs off the cornbread, which flies across the room and lands in a bucket.
3-pointer.
Everyone cheers. 3-pointers. I don't know why they would make a basketball reference in a Fast and Furious sketch.
It's
Um,
universal.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it is literally made and produced by Universal Studios. As they all settle down to eat finally, Dom Toretto stands up.
Wait. Where's the mashed potatoes?
Mia looks around. I thought you were on the potato duty.
Yes, we need one last ride.
Cut to a scene of them racing down the grocery store aisles in shopping carts, grabbing potatoes off the shelves. Then a high-speed peel and mash sequence back in the kitchen, all accompanied by intense Fast and Furious style music. Probably by Ludacris. Back at the dinner table, everyone is laughing, full from food.
Here's to another successful family gathering. Remember, we don't need to live life a quarter mile at a time when we can live it a turkey leg at a time.
Ho, ho, ho. Everyone cheers, and the scene ends with them all raising their glasses in a toast as the curtains close. And then Brian Hickey, the guy who commissioned this writing, blows his brains out from how cheesy this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was hoping there's gonna be more lines from Letty. I wanted to work on that accent again. I think I could have done better.
Oh, well, feel free to, just see what you can do here. This is our playground. What other quips do you think Letty would have in that scene, perhaps?
Oh, I don't know. She probably would have made some other snarky comment.
Well, let's hear that snarky comment as Letty.
I don't know. Like, let's see here. Like, will they hear where the "we get it, Uncle Gobble"? She probably would have made something there about Oh, or at the end, here we go. It's also about eating together. Is when he was saying that. She could have. Wait a minute. Hold on. We don't need to live life quarter mile. We can live it a turkey leg at a time. And then she probably would have brought up family again. It says some
Right,
snarky,
yeah.
like because let me guess, because family eats together or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Or maybe she's grateful for Dom having a child with another woman while
I kind of want to
she
add a
was
little bit
thought
of
as dead.
a Mexican accent, but I don't think I could do it in a way that's just not going to sound like hokey and offensive. So
I'm gonna second that. I don't think you can do it either.
yeah,
I really don't.
yeah.
Good on you for having that thought and then almost keeping it inside.
Well, because I'm kind of like practicing it to myself a little. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull that off. Like,
No, I really think you should definitely give it more than the 10-second digestion of finding out that you're gonna play her.
I would have to, if I was going to whip something up, I'd have to actually watch some videos of Michelle Rodriguez talking and try to whip out a quick just impression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird because I mean, Jesus, like I have an ear for what she would sound like, but do I think I would ever be able to do like a non-offensive version of that?
No.
No, not
I
at all.
can think it's okay, like a little rasp to the voice or something, but I don't know. But it's done. It's over.
Yeah, but it's done, man. Much like the original, as we thought, the original Fast and Furious, a lot of the characters in there thought they were done.
I have to say.
Know. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I was going to let you finish. I still stand by what I said originally. This movie didn't have anything to do with family. I don't think that becomes a thing until the fourth movie.
All right. You happy Thanksgiving, John.
Yeah.
With that said, you absolutely disrespectful fuckknuckle.
What?
How dare you say that this movie has nothing to do with family? Are you kidding me? It brings along almost half of the extended family that comes into the franchise. We have Roman Pierce.
They're introduced, but the whole concept of the whole like, I don't have friends, I have family. Like he doesn't start. None of that happens. Like, what's his name? Dom's not even in this movie.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Which I watched a lot of behind the scenes stuff for this, and it would be interesting if you could find it. But I just assumed that Vin had some better lawyers working for him or something, or maybe Paul Walker was like, no, this is a shoe-in for like another hit. I'm definitely staying on board, but I was watching the making of Too Fast, Too Furious, and he'd said something like he kind of let it slip that like was excited to be back, but also didn't have really much of a choice in the matter. They had an option on me since the first one, which I can't imagine that they would just have an option on Paul Walker and not on Vin Diesel.
Well, he might have been a bigger star at the time. Because he was the main character in the first movie.
Yeah, well, was I think the Triple X film, the first one, was also made by Rob Cohen. So that makes me think that's probably the only project that kind of gave him more of a leniency for an exit. You know what I mean? Because it was like he had to be available for that one as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, it's hard to search for the movie Triple X here. You got to be careful what you search.
Well, hit Vin Diesel first, and then
Well, it came up here on the side where it said film series.
Okay. I was going to say, then you only see about 2/3 porn. But no, man, I think, like, for me, this is my favorite one.
Ooh, Triple X was 02, so it was after Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. So, like, he had to, like, for... Okay, so Paul Walker is saying that they had an option on him. So, like, even if he wanted to fight, it would be really difficult for him not to be involved in the second one. Was Triple X not pornography, but the actual movie that Vin Diesel was in, was that not around the same time as Too Fast, Too Furious?
It was the year before. It was 02. Too Fast, Too Furious was 03. But you know how it is with production schedules and stuff. He may have been busy, because I think I read that somewhere. He was busy and couldn't appear in Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah, but also, like, I just remember him, like, a quote that maybe it was taken out of context. Who knows? But at this time, he was not interested in doing sequels, which, not to harp too much on the Triple X stuff, another reason he didn't come back for that sequel. And so much to the point that, like, the writers and producers or whoever it was, like, it pissed them off so much that they, like, outright kill his character to bring in Ice Cube for that.
Even though they end up bringing him back later.
Yeah. Which, it's they do it in a very Fast and Furious way, where, like, it's clear that they've killed off Han, and that they killed him off in two ways, which is so weird. Let's not even get down that tangent, because let's stick to the Too Fast here, because I like what John Singleton brings into the mix. Because if you didn't have it's most likely, let me put it that way, because I can't say for sure. I wasn't on the production. If you didn't have John Singleton directing this, and if you didn't have the movie that he directed, I think maybe a year or two prior, Baby Boy, starring Tyrese Gibson, you would probably not have had Tyrese Gibson in this franchise.
Yeah, this was like right around the time his film career was taking off. Yeah, Baby Boy was 01, yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Tyrese's earlier work. Like I said, I feel like he did a lot more versatile work, and then he just kind of became like the I don't know, just like, since he came back into the Fast and Furious franchise, he kind of just became like the punching bag joke of, like, the series. And, like, you can tell in this movie, he's like someone who should be taken more seriously. And he's also, like, from this point until, I'd say, in, like, the late aughts, if you will, like, he did a lot more serious, dramatic roles, which, weren't as successful. But, like, it's like the guy can do more than just, cheesily explain the plot of every film he's in.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the movies that really helped establish him, because before this, it looks like it was mostly like some music stuff that he was in.
Yeah. And I'm not 100% sure of whether or not John Singleton had a hand in directing some of his music videos.
Now, he was in a handful of, like, TV shows, like an episode of Hanging with Mr. Cooper, an episode of Martin.
Really?
Yeah, an episode of Moesha.
I did not know that. That would be interesting to go back and find those.
Yeah.
Just to see what kind of, like, because they would just be typecasting him for whatever that was.
Sister, yeah.
Really? Oh, I didn't realize that he was acting that far back. I thought it was because, much like with John Singleton making Tyrese a more of a household name, this is also Ludacris's first film ever.
Yeah, that was around the time. Yeah, I remember that now that you mention it, where he was breaking into acting.
Yeah, well, according to the making of, this was literally his first role on screen ever.
Yeah,
and it shows. But I can't say that I can't say he did any worse than Ja Rule.
That's just saying. I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm not saying like you're blown away by his performance, but at the same time, it was good enough that I don't remember it like sticking out. It's not like I was watching and was just like, oh my goodness, like.
Well, let me ask you something.
You know,
In the spirit of him
I didn't-
replacing Jaw, and in the spirit of Luda replacing Ja Rule, would you say Luda was all right?
no, he was I.
Goddamn, I indeed he was.
Yeah. And then in the string of the 2000s here, his career really took off. That's when he did like Four Brothers. That was a pretty solid movie. Actually, another John Singleton
that's right.
film,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. See, I mean, you got to think that Ja was definitely kicking himself in the face after that. Like,
Actually, Baby Boy was John Singleton too. Man, he did a number of John Singleton films.
what the fuck did I just say?
I don't know, something about Ja Rule.
I literally just went on a whole tangent on how John Singleton is, if he didn't make Baby Boy with Tyrese Gibson, there's no way you would have Tyrese Gibson in this franchise.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about other movies he did, like Four Brothers was also John Singleton.
Was it? Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So it's like he's done at least 3 John Singleton movies.
I mean, that tracks.
Yeah. Then he was in Annapolis. Hey, with Justin Lin, who would do one of the Fast and the Furious movies later on.
Really?
Did a
I didn't
couple
realize
of
that Justin Lin directed that.
Me neither. I'm just looking at Tyrese Gibson acting credits now, and then
Yeah.
huh.
People don't really give that Annapolis movie like a good, not really many good reviews on that. But I watched it in high school and thought it was pretty good. I mean, I'm sure if I rewatched it again, I'd probably, it probably would taste a little different. But at that time though, like, you're
I'm not sure I
16,
ever
17.
saw it. I remember it coming out, but I don't know if I ever actually saw it.
Well, at that point, like, and I kind of still feel that way for the most part. Like, a movie really, really has to suck from, like, if I'm watching it in theaters and think that, like, oh, this is not good at all.
Yeah.
Every movie is like twice as good if you just watch it in the movie theaters.
That's true. It's like the experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, so much to the point of, hot take here of like watching Inception in the theaters was mind blowing. But now if you watch it, if I watch it on TV, it's just like the concept here is not really fully fleshed out. I know. Shots fired at Inception, but that's just my.
Well, I'm just going to pass
personal
over
belief.
that for the time being. But I'm going to say some of that I think too is you're seeing it for the first time. And,
Oh, for sure.
Of course,
for
you
sure.
watch it later and you're like, okay,
But it's also the mind bending. Like, the visual effects are superb.
Oh,
just-
yeah.
Obviously the storyline gets super convoluted when it's the dream within the dream within the dream within. Oh, is this a dream or is it,
I mean, I personally really enjoy the movie. Granted, I haven't seen it in a number of years. But that being said, the South Park episode where they're making fun of it is just gold.
Yeah. I actually don't remember that, but like, let me rephrase. I don't dislike the film. It's just like I could see, like, oh, I didn't really see, like, the plot issues, if you will, didn't really stick out to me as much watching in the theaters.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, you start to see more chinks in the armor, I guess,
Exactly, but then also
Yeah.
you're, anytime you're making rules about fantasy, it's like, oh, well, these are all just made up anyways. So it's just, I don't know.
I don't know. I get that, but at the same time, I feel like sometimes people make that argument with like made up stuff, and they're like you see that with Star Wars or anything else, that if you try to like dog anything and say you didn't like this new movie or whatever, and they're like, and you say, well, this would never happen, or that's not realistic, and they say, well, it's a movie about space and magic and blah blah blah. It's like, and you're gonna sit there and say, what's realistic? And it's like, yes, I am, because the movies themselves, this goes for any movie, they establish they establish their own world. So you accept certain things like, okay, this can happen and this can't in this world. It's kind of like Superman.
Right.
Okay, we know what Superman is. We just believe, okay, he can fly, he can do all this. But I don't think it's an excuse to say, like, you can do whatever you want in the movie
and it's all okay because it's all made up anyway. Like, you know.
Well, to bring it back to our topic we should be discussing here, what the Fast and Furious films do, what is so spectacular, is everything you said that you can't do. They basically they set up these rules. They set up these events that happen within the timeline of the films, and then they go back and like, we know this doesn't make any sense. We know that we showed Han, driving around in these cars post 2006, but he's clearly dying in a 2006 timeline.
Yeah.
But
then he's riding around in all these new cars.
But hey, audience, no disrespect. Fuck you. Just listen to us.
Yeah. Well, they basically become like comic books, in that it's like somebody can be killed and then brought back later without much more explanation other than just, it turned out he was alive the whole time.
I'm really waiting for because how many more of these? How many more of these are they going to do? Do you think eventually they'll get to a Fast and Furious multiverse?
Again, something that back to what I was saying. They could do that. They because they've been slowly, each movie getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So maybe they could eventually go to that, but it's not that type of movie. It's not like space science fiction. It's not like
anytime you say it's not that type of movie, they become that type of movie. And that's when I gotta give credit to Justin Lin and the production team on that. Is I don't think they intentionally did that at first, but they've definitely leaned into that. Maybe because they know that that's half the reason, half the audience is going there to see how obnoxious and weird this is gonna get. I haven't seen the last one, but 9, they go to space. They literally went to space after everyone was joking for years. Oh yeah, what are they gonna do now? Go to space? They fucking took a Fiero into space.
Oh, did they actually? I thought that was a joke.
No, they literally did it. So that's my point is they eventually, and I commend them for that, is they eventually leaned into the absurdity. And especially if they're going to keep this thing going, I could totally, to me, it's the only thing that makes sense as to why, they never, obviously it's hilarious that up until the 9th movie, Dom had a little brother that no one ever mentions ever, but also it's the only, a multiverse is the only thing that explains why young John Cena grows a foot after he's already in his 20s.
Yeah.
In height wise, because the actor they had playing him, which I don't know if they're considering maybe trying to get a spin-off TV series of young Dom and whatever John Cena's character's name is. That guy is
I didn't know John Cena was in one of them. Okay.
John Cena is in the one that go to space, the 9th. And I think he's in the last one too. They do the format. They've created this format, which maybe they didn't create, but they definitely, I feel like I've become more known for it, as where they introduce a bad guy. Oh, he's a bad guy, but then he turns to the good guy, and so much to the point of because they did it with Hobbs, and then and in respect with him, and then of course Shaw. I'm sorry, not Hobbs. Yeah, well Hobbs too. Yeah, I guess. And Shaw, and then of course they had Shaw's brother previous as a bad guy, but because he's related to British actor's name escapes me.
Oh, Jason Statham.
Jason Statham. Suddenly he's an okay guy too. So they've done that with damn near every villain they've had. So it's okay, clearly John Cena is gonna turn the page, become a good guy.
It's because these movies more blur. Can't speak. They blur moral lines. The characters we're obviously rooting for, so you could think of them as the good guys, but they're not good guys. They're bad guys. They're criminals. So they're more like anti-heroes. So Hobbs is a police officer. He's an actual good guy, but he ends up coming into more of a morally gray area by joining them.
Yeah, but that's why they had to jump through so many hoops and just break so many storylines they already set up just to make it to where Shaw can become a good guy. It's oh no, we got to go back 5 or however many movies to where he didn't actually kill Han.
Well, the Han it's kind of you always see the jokes go back to Star Wars again, and it's and then somehow Palpatine returned. It's basically that. And somehow Han was alive. Okay, that's all we needed to say. Somehow he was alive still, and then
Yeah. And we really need to dig more into Too Fast and Furious. I will say this: there's only a couple people from the original movie that they haven't fully brought back. I haven't, unless they brought him back in the 10th one. I don't know. They haven't brought back the guy who played Hector.
Yeah, the other members of his street racing gang.
Yeah, but more importantly, and he was like a smaller part, but he was in Dom's crew. The character of Leon, played by the actor Johnny Strong, who I've actually met. I worked on a film that he starred in and produced with William Kaufman and Chad. I can't. The writer's last name, I apologize, escapes me. But it was a movie called Daylight's End. And it's a zombie, kind of a B horror zombie film. But anyways, I worked on that for a few weeks. Obviously, I didn't get it. I didn't bring up, hey, how come you haven't rejoined the Fast and Furious franchise? But I did look it up later in preparation for this. Basically, they just haven't asked him yet.
Okay.
Which I don't get that, because they literally brought everybody else back. For God's sakes, they brought Han back from the dead.
Well, that's what I was saying. The movies have gotten. I need to go back and watch all of them because I don't know. I think I've seen up till 5 or 6, and then I just kind of stopped caring. But I had a realization, and I realized these movies have, in a way, become exactly what I've been asking for a number of years. I've kind of got tired of everything having to be so technical and everybody's obsessed with backstory and all this. I kind of want to just go back to imagine the movie if you were 12 or something, or
I believe I was 12 or 13 when I watched this film.
Yeah, and
fantastic.
literally just it's cool. You don't need much more explanation other than it's cool. And I realized that's kind of what these films have become. They're just cool. You know what you're getting into. There's going to be cars and explosions and guns. They don't need to completely make sense, to be honest. They're just.
Well, that's where, for me, that's where more of the fun comes in. Is because I have taken so many notes about this film, and it's I could probably go back and watch it a third time and still not take enough notes. There's so many absurdities in this world. I just went back and watched it again today and prepped for this, and Cole Hauser's character.
That was cool.
Is he supposed to be Hispanic?
Apparently he's supposed to be Argentinian, but he had no accent. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess he could have been born in America, just Argentinian descent. I don't know.
Well, they said that he grew up mostly in America, but it's just there's so many little things that are. I just the more if you just stop, as you said, try to place any logic into it, the whole concept just kind of falls apart. But that's where it's fun for me, is that oh man, there's well, first of all, Eva Mendes's character, I forget her name, but she's deep undercover for being Cole Hauser's woman.
Oh, Eva Mendes. Dude, this movie had a great cast. I kind of forgot how many people were in it.
And I believe they even brought her back, and not to go back off on that tangent, and I think they even brought her back for one of the later sequels. I think she just has a little slight cameo, handing the Rock a folder or something like that. But yeah, so they have the audition, right, to be criminals for Cole Hauser.
Yeah.
And he's clearly a drug pen, and I can't remember. I think they actually show cut to a couple of he's watching on all these different monitors. So his compound, if you will, is heavily monitored, right?
Of course, makes sense. That's kind of your general crime lord villa compound in movies.
Sure,
There's
sure.
Surveillance everywhere.
So how the fuck does she get away with pulling up with Brian O'Connor and not having to explain it?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember.
It's just I was watching this time, and I was just what? This deeply paranoid guy watching on all these monitors sees his girlfriend just show up with one of the rando fucking auditioners, if you will, and it's huh. he'll address it when he looks at her for a second too long later, and the most
You mean when they
2000 opiates
first-
club ever.
You mean when they first come to his house to meet, and she rides up with him, like after they do the staring thing in the car where he's driving and staring at her?
Yeah.
I think that's
After,
because it was her job to recruit these racers. So I mean, obviously, it makes sense she'd be showing up and saying, "Here we go." Like,
But she wouldn't be using one of them as a fucking Uber.
maybe she would. I don't know.
It seems suspicious.
I don't think we knew she was
Especially-
a police officer by then, did we?
No, we knew. The audience knew, but Cole Hauser was not aware.
Well, he didn't find out till the end, but did Brian and Roman know?
Yeah. There was a whole scene where she's debriefing them right before that, before they get into their respective VD colored automobiles.
BD. Okay, yeah. I kind of remember that now. You would think I didn't. That's kind of how this movie is. The whole time I was watching it, and I'm just kind of like, what? And
Yeah,
then
I just
but
love
you just
the,
kind of accept it. You just kind of accept it.
The nostalgia for the early 2000s, man, which I get. Like at that time, it wasn't like, oh, these cars look ridiculous, because it was like the new thing,
Oh,
at
yeah,
least for
yeah.
the general
They were
public. But it's just like,
exciting
it looks like they're two components of an infected penis, like
and-
just piss yellow and bruise purple.
yeah, she was in Fast Five, by the way,
Okay,
in an
Gotcha.
uncredited role. So it's just very small.
yeah,
She's not doing much anymore either. Like, she was in one episode of Bluey in 2021, and before that, her last acting role was 2014.
no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I think she's trying to direct stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, let's see. Well, she's only got one directing credit, 2011, one writing credit for the same film. I don't know. Maybe it's by choice too. I mean, she probably made plenty of money.
Oh yeah, for sure, dude.
You know, maybe
Yeah,
she could be raising a family. Who knows?
Who knows? Indeed, certainly not us. But I would think that she is certainly beat the house as far as making money in the industry goes.
Yeah. That being said, and going back to the cast of this movie though was like prime Eva Mendes. Like, she looked good in this movie.
I cannot think of a single frame in the history of her career where she looked bad.
Well, no. But I'm just saying this was like peak Eva Mendes. Maybe Hitch might be peak.
I
But-
forgot about Hitch, man. I
Yeah.
forgot about it. Yeah, she was a stunning woman. It was
Mhm.
quite obvious the reasons she got cast, and I just love the especially going back and watching the making of, and just like how, man, the times have changed. Like, really unapologetically have like, yeah, no, we just wanted the place, the scenery is just filled with beautiful, sexy women. And then, of course, every guy it cuts to is like, oh my God, there's so many hot chicks around here. So like, John Singleton, Paul Walker, Tyrese Gibson, they're all just full fledged. Like, oh man, just like everywhere I turn, it's just hotties.
Well, I mean, it was Miami. Fair enough. I mean,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But like like it's just like so many almost kind of like model-esque type of things that shoots that they kind of do with her, like when she's in the boathouse,
Yeah.
there to warn Brian that the goons are coming to inspect them or whatever. Like, she is drenched. Like, what did she dive into the water? Like, it's a public accessible boat.
Well,
Like,
she's the attractive leading lady. I mean, you got to think
right.
the
So
demographic the
she's
movie appeals to.
contractually
They wanna see
obligated to
that.
have to, like, oh, there's a body of water. I got to get my shirt wet.
Well, I'm just saying. Imagine the age group, like where we were when that came out. We wanted to see exactly that.
Oh, I'm not disputing any of these things. Obviously, it's for what the audience wants. This is not a film that is like, oh man, we're gonna, grab all the awards this season. This is
Yeah.
clearly for, it's a blockbuster film in 2003, right?
And sometimes,
That year
you know
came
what,
out.
that stuff's fun. I don't really.
What do you think this podcast is, John?
Yeah.
Are we?
I
Doing any movies that aren't, just ridiculously raunchy, fun movies?
not so far.
Maybe not raunchy all the time, but certainly just, bonkers
Yeah.
fun.
I sometimes don't really think that much has changed between then and now until I watch a movie like that. And you can just tell, like, it just seems dated. Not just because of the movie
Yeah.
itself, but like the clothes they're wearing.
The clothes are definitely dated, early 2000s. White boys wearing the golf brim hats upside down, and like
Yeah.
opiates were a hell of a drug, man.
Yeah.
Opiates were a hell of a drug.
I mean, some of it, I wouldn't be mad if it came back, but
I'm sure it's on its way. Like I think we're
Yeah.
in like the mid 90s style now, so they're gonna work their way back up to the early 2000s.
dude, I'm always commenting on it. There's a girl that works up there with me. This is like her first job. She's like 18, and I talk to her sometimes, and it's just funny because some of the crap that was popular when we were in high school is like coming back. Like some of what she's
Yeah.
talked to, and then she'll wear like pants sometimes that look like they could have come from Hot Topic. And it's like there have been a couple things when we were talking about some bands, and I was like, man, you could have went to high school with me. That stuff was popular back then.
It's all cyclical, man.
Yeah.
And what's most important, though, is when we're talking about early 2000s fashion, you got to make sure you got deep pockets.
Yeah. Yeah, that went like to your knee just about.
Well, that, and I just love like in the writing of the script of like, I don't know whose idea was just like, man, I really like that phrase. Like they keep using it over and over. Like, how deep are their pockets? You got deep pockets? My pockets ain't empty, brah. This movie is all about pockets.
Yeah, I guess that was the terminology. Of course, you still hear that sometimes to refer to somebody who's rich, like he's got very deep pockets.
Yeah, but it was just like, I don't know, it was the only time I've ever heard it like being used and like this is the cool slang to say.
Yeah.
And just between that and like the cringe of Paul Walker saying cuz.
Yeah, he did that a whole lot.
Yeah. And it's
It seemed
I'm
like
watching the making of, he was like, what Tyrese is doing, he's bringing this out like authenticity up, authentic nature from he's from the streets and he's really bringing that. And, with us, our characters having grown up together and like, I'm taking a lot from him and I'm trying to bring that to my character too. I'm like, okay, Huntington Beach.
yeah.
Let's take it down a notch. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that was not dialogue that was improvised by him. That was
No, definitely not. And
that definitely feels like it was a Hollywood writer who wrote like, okay, I'm going to
For
write this gang member character or whatever it is, and they're like, this is how they talk, right? It's Miami, of course.
Yeah. And it's all about pockets.
Yeah.
I mean, to his credit, John Singleton's the one who signs off at the end of the day. Well, I mean, actually, let me rephrase that. The studio's the one that signs off at the end of the day, but, point being, it wasn't just, Paul Walker just,
Question, though.
cuz that time. Cuz was good, right?
When they found him, he was working at that demolition derby. Was that still Miami? Because that did not look like Miami. That was like desert. And
No, they say something else. Like I don't know that maybe they did reference this town, but it's like, it's the outskirts. Because he does say, you got to come back with me to Miami.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they have a derby track in Miami. I mean,
Well, I was just thinking that it looked like a desert, and as the camera's like panning up, you see what looks kind of like a mountain. I was like, this definitely looks like Nevada or something, Arizona, parts of California, something like that.
interesting. No, I think it was definitely had to be Florida some way or shape, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not totally familiar with the geographic disposition of the state.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, this one was you say it wasn't all about family, but I say it was all about the start of bringing the family back together. You know, I mean,
Well, I would
everyone's
say it
getting
was-
their assigned roles eventually.
That's
Because,
true.
you know,
But
even
the
though
con-
I go ahead.
I'm just saying the concept of family in the movies didn't start happening till later.
I mean, it's touched upon in the first one, right? But yeah, it's not well. But also, it's a story arc that brings all the other past films together. It's actually, as you know, obvious, cut and dry as it is, it's kind of a brilliant move for them, a reason for them to, you know, be able to bring all these other, you know, spin-offs back into the fold of the series.
Yeah.
You know, because otherwise it's like, duh, none of these people have any relation to each other, or you know, like there's like before, you know, they rebooted it or whatever, you know, decide they're going to make it into a huge franchise. Like there was no, up until like the last clip of the film, there's like no acknowledgement of any of the, you know, original Fast and Furious cast and Tokyo Drift. You know?
Yeah. Well, I'm looking here because someone actually did a count on all this. How many times Vin Diesel says family in every Fast and Furious movie? And I'm glad this information is out there.
What do we
In the
got?
first movie, he mentions it 0 times.
No, yeah, I think that sounds about right because it's just
And
implied.
actually, and I'm even wrong. The fourth movie, he says family 0 times. So we have the Fast and the Furious and the fourth movie, which is Fast and Furious. We drop the these.
Yep.
He doesn't actually say family until the fifth movie, and that's when The Rock comes in, and he says it 3 times.
Well, that's when you know it's staying around. When you know,
Yeah.
you give it the three-third charm.
Then 2 times in number 6. Also, I completely forgot Gal Gadot was in that movie before she really blew up.
Mhm.
4 times in 7. So that's where they really drive it home is 7. And I think that's the last one to feature Paul Walker. It was released after his death.
Yeah, it was, but we wouldn't have that family without the you know, the components that this new fold of a family brings.
Yeah.
Um,
I might have seen 7 now that I think about it. But
I think everybody saw 7. I mean, you had to see 7 just for
Yeah.
the.
But I
Yeah.
know I haven't seen Fate of the Furious, which was 8. And I haven't seen 9 and certainly not 10. He mentions it 0 times in 9, though, which kind of blows my mind. And only 1 time in the newest one, 10.
It says 0 times in that doesn't sound right.
According to this, I don't know, we'd have to go and watch it. So that might argue that without what's his name? Paul Walker, family's on its way out. They're mentioning it less and less.
Well, I mean, the family did break off and
Yeah.
start themselves a spin-off film franchise.
Kind of mad that I'm going to have to watch all these now, but I don't know why I haven't been along the way. It's not that they're stellar, but at the same time, I can appreciate what they are. Like, you can just go into them. Like I was saying earlier, your inner, like, 11-year-old self where all you want to do is just, cool. Oh, he's jumping in a car. Oh, and there's an explosion. Cool. Like,
I'm sorry, your inner 11-year-old self?
Yeah.
I believe you distinctly mean your inner 34-year-old self. What other what other media are you intaking? And I'm going, oh, cool.
actually, number. This is what I've been saying for a while. I actually just recently watched Pacific Rim. Same kind of thing. It appeals to the same character. Like, it's a summer blockbuster movie. Giant robots fighting giant Godzilla-type monsters. What's not to love?
I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, like, it's interesting to see where they start from there, because I mean, obviously everyone knows about the first one and where that kind of builds up to now,
Yeah.
and it is ludicrous, and this is, no pun intended, ludicrous when Ludacris joins, because I mean, you have, like, you know, in the movies that include them afterwards, it's Tej and Roman, respectively played by Ludacris and Tyrese Gibson. they're like the comedy duo, if you will, but like they have like barely interaction in this film.
Yeah, that doesn't
And,
really start happening till later.
And Tej is this tech genius later in the franchise. And like, that dude, at best, like he's like, a marketing guru, or a guy who knows how to network.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. He doesn't start becoming a tech genius till later. Like in this one, really all he does is like coordinate. Like he knows a guy who knows a guy, so you can go to him if you need resources, but he doesn't actually really do anything.
Yeah, and he's got like tech people and stuff. Like, so he doesn't really do any of that stuff. It's, it's like finding out that, Ty Lopez is like Q from MI6 because he has knowledge.
Yeah. My question though is that, dude, all these guys, I realize they're all friends and, like hooking each other up and all, but like, do they just do work for free? Like he goes to that dude's shop and like has him figure out that those cars are being tracked and like try to disable it and stuff. And then they're like, all right, cool. Like he just says, I'll do it for you.
I don't know, man. I mean, I think it's just because they're family.
I guess, but and the franchise has done this for a number of years. Like they'll completely overhaul a car in like 20 minutes, it seems. And it's like, no, most of the stuff is time consuming, difficult work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, if you break down any part of this movie, it's all just ridiculous. Like the opening scene race that they do.
Yeah.
They're they're all putting in $3,500, but the amount of fucking damage they do to their car, it's like it's gonna cost you more than $3,500 to fix that.
Yeah, I mean, very good point. But I think it's supposed to be 35,000 because they said 35 large.
No, well, here's how I know it was 3,500. Because, well, at least if it's incorrect, then it's not on me, it's on the subtitles.
Yeah, I saw that in the subtitles too, because I was thinking about that. But they said 35 large.
Well, I mean, it's 35 large for a race that involves a guy that had to miss because he was working the night shift. So let's put it in that context.
Yeah.
Most guys that are working the graveyard shift are like, man, I'd really love to go and do this last minute, race where I bet $35,000, but I got to be the guy mopping the floors in the graveyard shift or what have you, or, whatever thankless job. I could say that because I do that job. And I am not betting $35,000.
See, and that was my point. I was genuinely confused about that too, because I saw the subtitles were at 3,500, and then when they're slapping the money in their hand, that did not seem like $35,000. That seemed like that looks more like 3,500. But they said 35 large, which I'm pretty sure means 35,000.
Oh man, he would definitely be the guy getting in so much trouble at these street races.
Yeah. Maybe not. I mean, everybody wants to be clear when you're talking about money.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it says the slang large, meaning $1,000.
Whereas, like, all the characters have that reaction of when Brian O'Connor shows up and they're like, oh shit, it's Brian. If it was you, they'd be like, oh shit, it's verbal minutia.
Yeah.
Coming in the raceway.
Dude, that just means he just won like $95,000 right there.
Other thing too. And of course it's, it's a action film where you just cut, everything goes. But like that race got busted. Nobody gave him any money away. Like he just got his car fucked up and he didn't collect anything. And also, if we're going to really cut it down to brass tacks here, now this man is being monitored by the FBI and U.S. Customs. He can't be fucking getting any money like transferred wire-wise or whatever. So like that's got to be straight cash. And I didn't see any cash exchange hands. His pockets, though, they might be deep. They weren't being filled.
Well, Tej was holding the money. You saw him all handing Tej the money.
You're right. So maybe that's why, Tej holding all of his dollar bills, felt obligated to have Jimmy, who was just, when you got Ludacris in the movie, of course you got to have this unknown Asian guy who is the, his tech guy rapping in the film.
Yeah. I'm looking it up. Did Brian actually receive his race winnings?
I mean, like, again, if you just dissect this too much, like, none of this makes any fucking sense.
But
Like-
none of it really matters. It's all just like to drive the plot.
Yeah.
forward.
Well, because like, what a terrifying universe this is. Going back to like the race audition, which is like so ludicrous that like they show up to the impound, and even though it's like the customs agents that are tracking their car, like, why is anyone surprised that the cops show up?
Why did this guy need 2 street racers too?
Well, that's because he's a big cartel guy, and
Because
the movie needed 2 street racers.
Because what
Um,
did they actually do? That I mean,
Yeah, and it's like
they
such
were
a
bringing
public
his
display.
money to the airport, but the only reason the cops were there is because they tipped him off, and the guy thought they were running.
And it's a
But
public
that was only
display in
because
these very identifiable cars, right?
But that's what I'm saying. Is they were. That was only because they were undercover. He didn't know they were undercover. So why would
No.
he anticipate the need that you needed people with extreme driving ability? Like, why did he need street racers?
Well, that's the other thing too. It's like, if he's gonna have like, oh, you got street racers or whatever, but like, do it in like these unidentified, like these cars with like no tags or whatever, because they still did the job in the same goddamn cars that they did the audition in, where they wreaked havoc all over the fucking highways of Miami. Like, and easily 10 people died during that whole transaction.
Yeah.
Certainly the stunt driver in the Mustang, who just again, if you dissect it too much, like, got just crumbled between, got bashed back and forth between 2 semis, and then literally crumbled. But
Yeah, it drove over him. Yeah, he most likely died. Yeah.
for sure. But here's the part where it really got me again watching it this time. It's like, they didn't stop. Like, the semis did not stop. Like, you feel a fucking sports car, running under your tires, and you don't even like let go of the gas. It's gotta follow through with ending this man's life. Like, it makes for an awesome
and
stunt,
a short
obviously.
time to get there.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta get these Coors over across the
Yeah.
border.
That would be funny to do like an edit, like put them together and just
we
like
should-
crunch it
yeah,
over that
we
car.
should definitely do that.
Yeah. Another thing I was noticing too, and this isn't just this movie, but like, when did movie budgets get so insane? They made the most recent one had a budget of like 340.
I don't know.
Like that's like
I'll be
4.5
honest.
times the amount. Like, I know inflation is some of it, but 4.5 times the budget.
Yeah, it's pretty great, right? I didn't
Yeah.
really catch most of that tangent because either you're cutting out or I'm cutting out because
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I was talking about, when did movie budgets get so ridiculous? They made this movie on $76 million. The newest one cost like
Oh, wow.
340. Yeah.
I mean, let's not ignore the fact that inflation has been a motherfucker in the past
Well,
decade.
inflation is a factor, but that's like 4.5 times the amount. Like,
Right. Well, I mean, it definitely adds to the greedy nature of the studios too. Of like, there's not really the only films that they're really bringing to the theaters now are huge blockbuster films, or something that's going to be paraded around for award season, because every other market is just got to go to streaming now, because there's not an extra return anymore from the home video market. Whereas where a lot of like movies saw extra back end that weren't necessarily like huge in theaters, but then once the home were brought to like home video DVD became
Yeah.
more of a bigger success, like Grandma's Boy, You know, I think that was like only in theaters for a couple weeks, but it's like, you know, became a huge hit on when it came out on DVD.
Yeah. So
now they're like, why even risk doing that? Let's, you know, just take it straight to the platform if that's where it's going to perform. You know.
okay, so but here's my point. So that's a very good point, and I think that's a factor. But if we just account for inflation to make that same movie today, it would have cost $136.8 million, if my math is correct.
And what are you saying the last budget was?
The like 340.
I mean, well, you got to put it in the context of like, this wasn't, I mean, it wasn't really a huge gamble making this film, but it was still a bit of a gamble. It was the first sequel, right?
Yeah, and you never know if it's gonna catch on just the same.
Yeah. Well, now you got to think of it in the context of like, this is up there, like the Fast franchise is up there with like, you know, the huge superhero Marvel.
Oh
films
yeah,
of,
it's
like,
made an insane amount of money. Yeah,
it's projected. Like that's when it's gambling. You
like
know,
as a franchise,
you put more,
it's made like $7 billion.
and they keep on getting more and more returns for their investments. So it's just kind of like, okay, well, we're going to push even more, and then of course, one of these days, the next one's going to flop, and then it's just going to be like, okay, well, we're done with that.
Yeah,
Because they're going to like, if it keeps on going this direction, and people are going to get, you know, fatigue for sure. Like, and unless they project that in accurately, which I don't know that they will, the studio is going to lose their ass eventually on Fast 14 or what have you.
well, yeah.
That's my thoughts,
Eventually,
man.
there's going to be a breaking point. There's eventually. You're right. I think there eventually will be a breaking point where people are. I think you're kind of slowly starting to see that with like the Marvel and a lot of the superhero stuff, especially
sure.
because they've warned people out. It's not just been movies, but there's been TV shows and
Yeah.
series and stuff. But I think, and you were saying this earlier, I think they're going to keep making them until one finally loses money.
For sure, man. Yeah.
Because as long as it's
Until
making
they
money,
reach
why
their-
would you stop?
Yeah. Until they reach their Point Break, which is basically the original storyline of the Cars. Man, I gotta go back and watch Point Break again.
Yeah, but if you look at this, like, let me sort this of like the most expensive movies ever made. This shows me the top 55, or I'm sorry, how many are in this list? 58
What are you
movies. This is
What are you
just
looking
on
at?
Wikipedia, list of most expensive films.
Okay.
The lowest one on, or the cheapest one on the list is King Kong at $207 million, which was a lot of money considering that was made in 2005, just 2 years after this movie.
Jesus.
But then you
Yeah.
rank that with the most expensive movie on the list. That's Star Wars The Force Awakens, $447 million budget. That's an insane amount. Good thing it made like $1 billion because it had to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the.
That's another
I'm
thing
sure
that
they're.
gets me.
Yeah.
I understand the cost of making a movie has probably gone up some, but you would think studios would be motivated to try and do it as cheap as they can because it seems we're at a point now where like if a movie doesn't make like $1 billion, it's a financial loss.
Well,
You
okay,
see it
so
all the
here's
time where like a movie like it made $400 million, but they're still talking about it being a bust.
So it's kind of. So for me to say that it's a gamble is a bit of an overstatement, I suppose, because it's not like these studios aren't putting in their research to see, you know, if people are going to be excited to see this, you know. So they're for sure doing that with like the Fast franchise. You know, they're obviously having probably a bunch of test screenings,
Yeah.
but before that, they're probably, you know, even just having what's that the other thing that you would call like not necessarily a test screening, but it's more done in like a corporate setting of like, you know, let me show you this ad and like group study. I can't think of the term. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Kinda. Talking about like Like a study group, kind of.
I guess, but it's more of like, what do you think of this product? And it's like a picture of whatever they've made together. So, anyways, my point is that they're definitely doing their research, but eventually, that's going to flop. Like because I don't know, like how do you measure exactly when someone finally loses interest in something that they've invested a decade of their life in? Like if you would have asked me at age 19 or whatever,
group. That's what it is.
Thank you. Yes, focus group.
Yeah.
If I would have been excited about seeing like endless seasons of Family Guy at age 19, I'm like, oh hell yeah, I'll keep like. I haven't watched it in well over a decade now.
Yeah, it's been
like
quite a few years for me too.
I couldn't pinpoint the day, and I was like, I just don't. It wasn't like Vendetta. It was just I lost interest.
Yeah.
So how do you pinpoint that? How do you pinpoint that exact time? I don't think the only way that you really do it is when you've lost the money already. We're like, oh, I guess they lost interest, kind of like with the Marvel shit.
Yeah. Well, if they're lucky, there may be signs like they might start noticing box offices going down, and then if they're smart, they'll quit while they're ahead instead of literally doing it until one just completely fails.
Well, they're always following the trends. I mean, as much as they're not willing to invest in like a lot of new, original films or whatever, once like a more independent spirit one makes an ass ton of money,
mm-hmm.
and they're all about investing either that filmmaker's next film or more films like it in a copycat kind of essence. Like, I mean, think about like how many goddamn Paranormal Activities there were, or Saw, or
That seems the way, and it's obviously easier said than done. But Paranormal Activity, that was the way to do it. Like, extremely low budget on the first movie, and then it just made a ton of money. They made the first movie for like $15,000.
Oh, it's a super easy movie to make.
Yeah, and you're literally filming it with like just a handy cam, and
yeah, like we're halfway there right now.
Yeah, exactly. And who knows? That could be us.
That could be us.
Yeah.
So I have one more thing I wanted to ask you before we kind of wrap it up. So the electrical systems disablers, I can't.
Oh, I'm glad
I think
you
that's what it's
brought
called.
that up. That was dumb.
Yeah. Is that fucking real?
I don't think so.
Because I've only seen it in this movie. I don't think I've ever even in like a dystopian future, whatever. I don't think I've seen that shit pulled out.
I thought that was kind of dumb.
Well, it's like it seems impractical. I mean, especially because most of the time they're just shooting it in the door, which is like, yeah, sure, the door panel has some wiring, but like the odds of you, like, I don't know.
See, now I'm on this Fast and Furious wiki that's calling it an EMP based weapon, but it certainly didn't seem like an EMP.
I looked at the it said ESD on it. I definitely saw electrical systems, and I think it said disabler.
The ESD harpoon launcher.
And it's like it doesn't, especially even for 2003, and like say they're using, one of those classic cars, like, they had that Charger or whatever, like ain't too much fucking electrical systems on that guy. Like, it's not gonna.
Yeah. Of course, I don't know. Those cars have been extremely modified, so.
For sure, but as far as we know, like that's not really a thing that exists, right?
No. It actually says right here it's made up.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it says the ESD harpoon launcher is a fictional weapon created specifically for Too Fast, Too Furious, according to director John Singleton. The weapon was automatically assumed to be legitimate by the viewing audience.
I mean,
I thought it was kind of dumb when they did that. I was like, what? And it just shocks the door panel. Like, I don't think I get the concept of, it'll overload all the circuits and shut, but I don't think by just it hitting the door panel or the quarter panel that it's going to make its way through the whole system.
And even if it does, like that might work on like a electric car today, Like if you're turning off the electrical systems, even on like a souped up car in 2003, everything that all the mechanisms that make the car move for the most part are not electrical. You know, the gear shifter is not electrical. The clutch
No.
is not electrical. You've made it to where the starter won't start. Great. The car's already started. You know, so it's like you'd still be able to get away. You just have this big dumbass fucking harpoon in his fucking door.
Well,
I mean,
and what I'm saying is now, I don't know, in that year model, I don't know specifically, but they may have had like electronically controlled like fuel injection or throttle body, so I could see that. You know,
there
I
would be
don't.
chips for sure in the car, but like I think it would still be able to accelerate. I just don't think it would be, it wouldn't be turbo injected. But it's like
Maybe, but if it's electronically like controlling your fuel injection and then you're not getting fuel injected to the motor, it may not completely ground it, but it's definitely going to screw up the way it runs. I'm just saying I don't think it would even do that. Maybe you would have to be, because I'm also reading, apparently someone else asked the question here on Reddit, and that's what I'm reading. You'd have to be extremely accurate. Like if you just hit the roof,
Yeah.
as this guy's saying, chances are it's probably not going to do much. It's more likely to disable the driver than it is to disable the car.
But little did we know that on the side, while Dom Toretto was escaping in Baja, he trained a whole bunch of custom agents on how to make this fictional weapon just be accurate as possible. All between that and showing them how to, burst concrete with his fist.
Yeah, I still maintain that's the only reason The Rock was brought into the series, was they needed somebody bigger than him.
Yeah, it was a pretty good format to go with,
Yeah, it was like, all right, we need someone even more muscular. Would electricity stop a vehicle?
It'd be like electrical diffuser or something, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it? Yeah, it's basically
Can you-
supposedly like electrocuting it.
Yeah, and basically fry the electric systems. Or,
All right. Well, while you're looking that up, I also just enjoyed, as we mentioned earlier, like all the attire of the early 2000s. But like, there's so much of this movie. There's like, you don't like John Singleton and the art directors. They're not going to let you forget for a fucking second that you're in Miami. Like in the last scene, Cole Hauser is the big bad taking Eva Mendes on the boat. He's wearing like this black satin shirt, like clearly like, oh, he's the man in black, he's the evil guy.
yeah,
And then they cut to the white shot, and he's wearing like these white satin, like, hey, I'm evil, but I'm in Miami. Like I gotta wear these loose, like linen white pants. It was just like such an odd juxtaposition between the dark satin shirt and then but hey, we're gonna be on a boat, so gotta have the loose fitting linen fucking pants. I don't know. I found it intriguing.
well, I don't know. This guy is saying right here, it's basically talking about if your car was was hit by lightning, and he was saying all things that contain metal are connected to the outside of the car, and I guess it's for grounding for electrical systems. That way, you're not sure not to get a shock if the car does take a hit. So maybe, but I'm thinking that thing would have to contain some really high voltage, and it's probably just not very practical, especially by the the technology of that time.
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thankful. I'm thinking that I'm thankful that my car has never been hit by that. And that I haven't
too.
found myself in between two semi-trucks being bounced back and forth and then finding myself face to face with the wheels and praying that the driver is going to stop and then putting inside
And
my
then
car.
turning sideways and being run over.
I'm thankful, I guess what I'm saying is that I'm not an innocent bystander in the Fast and Furious world, because they have for sure committed war crimes all across this great world of ours. And not only have they not, faced any charges for it, I don't think they've even been acknowledged. I think it's mostly like, well, 3 out of 5 of the guys don't wear sleeves. They're cool.
Yeah, that's it. If you look at all their shirts, no sleeves.
Exactly.
Step 1, you get a shirt, even if it's a Christmas gift, cut the sleeves off.
And as a man, talking as a man who has a father who is not much for sleeves himself, that's what family's all about, John.
My dad used to be that way when I was younger. Like he had tons of sleeveless shirts.
Hey, man, it's fucking Texas. It's hot. I get it.
Yeah. Somewhere that exists, there's old pictures of him just in tank tops. Like,
My God. Must have been far down the line.
yeah.
But yes, John, I want to, unless you got something else you want to add to this this episode of it and talking about Too Fast.
I know we've gone off on a lot of tangents on the franchise as a whole. It's actually very difficult not to. But
Yeah, it really is.
but bringing it back to just this movie, to sum it up, finalize, what did you think of the movie? For anyone that's watching that may not have seen it, good movie?
Well, I got to think about it in the last time I said that I gave Ernest Scared Straight 2.5 stars out of 5. I hate to do it to you, bud. I got to retract that. I'm going to say 2.5 out of 10.
Gonna have to disagree. But that's okay.
That's fair. And then I'm going to have to say that I'm going to give Too Fast, Too Furious an even 5.
Fair enough. I could agree with a similar score. I think it was just fun. Watch it for what it is. If you're in that role, like, I think where we made the mistake along the way was going too far down the rabbit hole. Like thinking about it. Like, just watch it and have fun. It's gonna be fast cars. We were
furious, and we approached it too fast.
Yeah, fast cars, hot women. There's action.
And it just drives you mad.
It is exactly what it says. It is too fast and too furious.
That it is.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for it. And in closing, John, what would you like to say you're thankful for on this Thanksgiving?
Well, I guess I'm always thankful for family. I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's the truth.
Hey, man. It's a blockbuster of a truth. Okay.
I'm going to be doing my Thanksgiving fire hole again. Wish you could be there.
Oh, I'll be there in spirit.
Yeah.
I'll be there like a remastered George Lucas film. I'll be
Just
there
edit
as a younger version of myself.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll edit in high school Brian Hickey just for the sake of doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's going to be me with a large mohawk.
Good times. I'm glad you brought that up.
Wow. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed having that. I'm thankful that I don't have to comb a mohawk today.
Yeah.
It just seems like an additional thing I don't need in my already enduring midlife crisis.
Just an added step.
Yeah.
I hear you.
And I'm thankful for this podcast, John.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. And we're thankful for you, dear audience, for tuning in.
That being said, I had to be very thankful for our viewers and or listeners, whatever you want to define them as, because we're still small right now. So the people that are listening, you're the real ones.
They are the real ones.
Yeah.
And I
we
think
appreciate it very much.
Indeed. They'll be thankful to hear about our appreciation and the fact that I think we're done with this episode.
I think so too. Got an extra long bonus episode on this one.
Man, do I love me an extra long bony. Well, how about that for a very special Thanksgiving bonus episode, dear listener? I hope we weren't too fast for you. I hope you didn't find yourself too furious? Sometimes I think I do comedy. But other times it's quite apparent I have work to do. Because by golly, that was about as corny as talking about how deep my pockets are. Or calling Tyrese Gibson cuz. Sorry, Paul. I don't mean to shed on you after, you know, the whole dying thing. You sound a little goofy calling anyone cuz, as I do as well. Cuz it's just not a word that reciprocates well with our faces. Know what I mean? You know what I mean. We appreciate you once again for tuning in. And we most certainly would like to thank you a happiest of Thanksgivings. We are, as we mentioned, oh so thankful for you, dear viewer and dear listener. And we do hope you continue to tune in for a very special Christmas episode, where we will be talking about the glorious, the most enchanting Christmas movie of all time, Lethal Weapon. That's right, MFers. Strap in your pistols into your boots and get ready for a fantastic holiday finale of bonus episodes. Because it's going to be a real treat. It's going to be a real Christmas miracle. Where we get to witness Danny Glover, Mel Gibson, Busey Gary, and many other character actors whose name escaped me. Is Joe Pesci in the first one? I don't remember if Leo gets it. But I digress. It's gonna be a fun time, and I for one am most certainly gonna tune in, and we hope you do as well, cuz. And in closing, as always, I'd like to say, como se llama hermana? Lo siento, Pelipento. Farewell, and good night to all my North Texans, and sweet dreams and ta-ta to all my fellow Angelinos, and to everyone in between. You know what I mean. Have a thankful giving filled with turkey and stuffing, and when you're done with that, have a nice nap on the couch, because that's what it means to get together with family. You stuff your gullets with the good times, and you nap away the achy, bad feelings. This has been another episode of the Big Boys Podcast.
Big Boys is a podcast produced by Not So Funny or Proud Productions. The team consists of co-hosts, co-producers, and co-editors Brian Hickey and John Sorrells, better known as John the Great. For more information about the duo or this show, please visit us at bigboyspodspot.com, or feel free to take a gander at our production page, notsofunnyorproud.com. Look us up on social media and follow us at Big Boys Pod Spot. New episodes drop every Thursday on every popular podcast hosting platform known to man. So please be sure to like, subscribe, vibe, describe, contrive, confide, collide, abide, preside, tell your tribe, and most importantly, do prescribe. Me and Elixir for talking out the side of my neck.